Hello everyone, this is Taryn with Wonderfully Made Handcrafting, and today I'm starting on my Tag Bob kit from ByTheWell4God, working through the Follow Me devotional for June 2022. So I picked out one of these journaling cards. I really like how ByTheWell4God has left them more plain this month, and I'm going to use it as the focal point of this title Tag Bob card. So I also have these paint chip cards that I'm looking to use in the background. I really want to make this kind of a junk journaling, so you see me here grab out some ledger paper that I have punched spiral holes in and done some fun stuff with, and now I'm just working on all of these different layers. Now I know many of you know that purple is not my favorite color, but I really loved this journaling card. This was my favorite one. I really like the lavender wash of the watercolors and everything, so we're just going with it this month. This kit is very bright and cheery and summery, which is great for June. However, I usually change these and kind of bring more of a vintage and antique vibe with these kind of kits. But we're going to try to tone it down just a little bit with the antique vibe this month. I am still going to be distressing all the edges like you see me do here, just because I really like the texture it gives. And I will still kind of add color and a little bit of aging to the edges, but we'll just see how it goes. I'm trying my best to, spread my wings and kind of do something a little bit different this month, just for those of you who may not necessarily like the vintage look as much as I do, but you'll still see it kind of pop up here and there. So basically what I'm trying to say is I still want that junk journaling and vintage look. However, I'm going to try not to tone down the colors as much with so many browns. I really want to try to keep the colors more true this month. So we'll see how it works. Now I'm working on using the very last little bits of my Barely Arts precision glue. So you saw me just kind of open the top and dump it on and spread it with my finger. That's what I'm doing throughout this whole tag. So I know it looks crazy and it does get a little bit messy. I just had a baby wipe on hand. I also always back these labels up because I don't like seeing through them. So just adding a little bit of white cardstock on them really helps make them look opaque. They are opaque to begin with, but I just want to make sure that I don't see anything through them. This label isn't used to write anything on. It's simply another layer in this cluster. However, I did want to cover up the ByTheWell4God logo on this paint chip card simply because it seemed a little distracting with everything else going on if it wasn't covered, and so that kind of helps me out there. The square grid on the background of this tag is super helpful this month to make sure that all the layers that you're adding are nice and straight. Once you have those base layers down, it makes it super easy to add more layers to this tag and just line them up with the pieces that you already have down. And as you can see here, I did get a little bit of oozing out from that ledger paper. It's because this ledger paper is so thin. So when I dumped that glue down, it kind of seeped through a little bit. But no worries, because I'm going to be covering that up anyhow with this journaling card. Now, I did distress the journaling card with that little paper distresser from Tim Holtz. I have been liking using that lately if I just want a lighter distressed edge rather than my scissors. My scissors definitely get a nice distressed edge going, but if I just want a little bit of texture, this little paper distresser works really well. Now I did have a couple scraps of lace that I wanted to use up, and they work really well with this tag. They bring in that vintage feel without it being overwhelming, but they are just scraps, so I had to use two different pieces. But what I noticed is as long as I layered these up together, you really couldn't tell that they were two different pieces once the finished product was done. It's not like your eye automatically goes right to the lace to look if they're two different pieces. So don't throw your little scraps of lace away, especially since lace is one of the more expensive ribbons or embellishments. So definitely keep those, and I'm sure you'll be able to use them sometime in the near future. Now this journaling card is about the same width as the tag itself, and so I'm going to cut off a little bit because I want to see all those layers. I don't want to lose that, and I will save that little extra to use in a tag in the future. I love saving these kind of things, and this has just some beautiful watercolors on it. I did add that little paper reinforcer at the top of the hole for the tag, and now I'm just holding down this stencil with some mint tape. Now I don't want to use a stencil and have it cover up any of the girl, so I'm covering up those pieces as well with mint tape. This stuff is amazing. It's one of those tools where you don't know you need it until you have it, and unfortunately the 1 inch width mint tape at scrapbook.com is sold out right now. I will leave the 4-inch width down below in a link because I think I might pick that one up as well. So here I go. I am using my texture paste, just regular opaque texture paste from Tim Holtz, and now I'm using some Nuvo Embellishment Mousse. Now I had this Embellishment Mousse, I've had it for a while, but I haven't used it much, and I guess I got it a year and a half ago, almost. During Christmas, they had like this big sale where you could get a bunch of colors for a cheaper price, and so I ended up getting it, and there are a lot of colors that I don't normally use, but here we go. We have the purple. I really like how it looks with that texture paste. It kind of gives it more chunk to it, I guess, but it doesn't change the color that much, and you still have that shine from the Nuvo Embellishment Mousse. I did add a little bit of speckled egg embossing glaze on top. I thought it would add some more blues in, but honestly, since that is transparent color, it doesn't really do that. It just actually makes some more depth to the purple. It doesn't necessarily look blue, but I do like the look of it. Now, when you heat emboss the texture paste and Nuvo Embellishment Mousse, I didn't know how it would turn out. It does make it kind of puffy, and I like that look sometimes. Now, I did want to add the devotional title to this tag, and so I am stamping that follow stamp that just came with the kit stamp on the canvas bag, and I will cut it out and add me to the bottom of that as well. When I stamp on the canvas, I do try to keep that double layer together, simply because if you just use the one layer, the stamping kind of gets lost because it's see-through. So having that double layer really makes that canvas pop, and therefore the stamping. A frayed edge is always fun to add to canvas, so I like to pull the edges and create that look. Now I will be adding this with my tiny attacher to the tag. Don't worry about all this stapling I'm doing here. I know I stapled that ribbon down as well, but I will be adding some pattern paper to the back side of this tag. It'll cover up all the staples and also make this tag a little bit more sturdy. Not that it needs to be more sturdy, but it'll just make it more substantial because it is the title card. Now, originally I was going to use these tile alphas to add me to the bottom of this. However, they did kind of get lost in the whole card itself. It just wasn't popping enough for me. And so I decided to change, and I'm going to grab my Dymo label maker and just spell out me there instead. With that black, it'll make it pop and also kind of tie in the black ink to the follow. Now, I did say I wasn't going to add much antiquing to these cards this month, or at least try not to. However, I do still want to add a little bit of distressing to the outer edges of this card. I didn't do it to all the different layers like I normally would, but just adding it to the outer edges kind of fills it in, I feel, and adds a little bit of depth. It also covers up any white core of the paper might have. So I really like just doing the simple edges like this. Also, if I do this to all the tags, it'll kind of make it more cohesive looking. So I decide to do that, and then I come over to the paper pack. Now, this is the add-on paper pack for Follow Me, and I'm looking at all the different papers. At first, I was going to go with this watercolor one. However, I really liked the one on the back side of this, and so I'm just going to pour out some of my Barely Arts glue and just paste it onto this background paper and cut out the outer edges. Now, apparently I also got some Nuvo Embellishment Mousse on the back side of this tag, and so by adding this paper, it also covers up any imperfections that might have happened as you are working on the front side. I know that happens quite a bit when I'm working with tags. I also noticed that my tiny attacher didn't hit the second layer of this ribbon that I had added, and so I just add a little dot of my precision glue and that should hold it just fine. Now, if I were to do this over again, I probably would have just waited to add that frayed burlap until I had that second layer down, but that's just hindsight bias now. And now I also need to create that hole at the top in my second layer of paper, and so I just take my Crop-A-Dile and punch that hole. This tag bob kit came with this ring and a bunch of different textures of yarn and ribbon and fabric. And so I'm picking out all the blues and purples since this is going to be seen most often with the title card page. And so I wanted to match. However, I do want to separate these into different colors and textures. And so that's why I laid them out, because once I grab these and make that kind of floofy, you don't want all the colors to be in the same area and all the chunky yarns together. So that is why I spread them out on the table first. Now I did forget to save some ribbon, and so instead here I'm just using the cording from the canvas bag, and I'm going to double knot that to make sure that it's nice and tight and holds all that ribbon. And then I just kind of make another double knot up at the top a little bit more, so it makes a little tiny hole where I can thread that through onto the ring. I do want to make sure all the textures are as even as possible on the bottom of this floofy, and so it's easier to do with two people where one person can hold the whole floofy out and the other person cuts. However, I didn't have two people here, so I decided to use the tension with this tag ring and just kind of hold it as best as possible and then cut the edges to make the best I could. But anyways, I also forgot that I had that little Glowforge charm, that little paintbrush that they created, and so I just use a little pin to tuck that into the canvas cording that I had, and then this card and floofy will be done. If you've enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe to my channel. You can also follow me over on Instagram at Wonderfully Made Handcrafting. I'll try to link everything I use down below in the description if it's still available, and I hope you have a wonderful day, guys. Bye.